signed up for this webinar for a reason. You're probably at the crux of your career. You don't know how you want to proceed, or you need ideas how to further grow your career. You begin to start asking questions that go beyond promotions, salaries, or job titles. Questions like, what really drives me now? Am I still growing in the direction that I want? And how do I pursue success without sacrificing the life that I want to live? The reality is, the world of work is changing rapidly. Career paths today are no longer straightforward or predictable. Opportunities evolve, priorities shift, and many professionals find themselves standing at crossroads. Not because they're lost, but because they are ready for something more meaningful, more aligned, and more intentional. Today's webinar is designed to spark that conversation. This is not just about careers. It's about growth, purpose, reinvention, and creating a future that reflects who you are today and who you want to become next. Over the next hour, we will explore the changing career landscape, hear authentic stories and lessons from professionals who have navigated pivotal career moments, and open the floor for an engaging mentoring style discussion where your own questions and insights become part of the conversation. And we hope that you have brought those questions with you today. And now, to guide us through this meaningful and inspiring session, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers to you. They are both directors of Power in You, and they have asked the same questions we will talk about. And so, join me please in welcoming Penny Bongato as one of the speakers. And I will also be one of the speakers. And I've introduced myself. I'm Elaine Cercado. Hi, Penny.
Hi, Elaine. It's nice to be in this webinar talking about career journeys and our life stories. So exciting.
It is. So, the part one is determining your direction towards greatness. Now, I'd like to start with this model. Perhaps some of you have read the book of Jim Collins on Good to Great, and he talked about the greatness model. But what I'm showing to you is the opposite of the greatness model. What I'm showing to you now is the model which is called survival or mediocrity model, which is something that Aviad Gos of News Navigation, one of our global partners here in Powering New Singapore, has used, which is also based on the good to great model of Jim Collins. And essentially, what he's saying is that this model implies we are just surviving, we are just complying. In this model, the questions we ask ourselves are, what do we have to do to survive? Number one. Number two, what don't we mind doing versus love doing? And number three, what are we not too bad at versus what are we great at? So in this survival mediocrity model, this is a mindset model as well, what we're implying is a situation where there are low motivation levels, where there are low results achieved, and it's essentially an outside in model because people just go through the motion to perform, the motion to survive on a day-to-day basis. Now, contrast that with the greatness model. The greatness model based on Jim Collins' Good to Great book, where people and organizations choose their direction by asking these three important questions, which lead to having highly motivated selves and teams and achieving great results. This model is constructed from inside out. The order of asking the questions is also important. We start first by finding what are we passionate about. Okay, and that's why we ask this question: what are we passionate about as individual contributors, as leaders, as team members, as entrepreneurs, as heads of departments, so whatever role, in whatever capacity you are today. And then the second question is, what are our core competencies and capabilities? And number three, we then ask, how can we meet the needs of our market or the world for that matter in a practical manner, having identified our passions and our competencies? Using this model, we can follow our circle of uniqueness, what we call our inner circle of uniqueness. And from there, we can make a substantial contribution to the organization, if you're working for one, or to the society in general, and create impactful and great results. So, what we're saying is we must focus on moving from good to great by finding or discovering our inner circle of uniqueness. And how do we do that? The key is to find the intersection of the three circles, the one you see in the middle, the sweet spot, which happens when what you're passionate about and what you're talented in or capable of meet the needs of the organization or the market or the society. Okay, so I hope that's clear. I had to explain it in a very limited time, but let's try this exercise to find our inner circle of uniqueness. And so, what we'd like you to do now is to try this exercise where you identify your three main passions as a person, as a leader, and also identify your three main core competencies and capabilities as a leader. Because from there, then you're able to strengthen your choice out of the passions and capacities or competencies that you have, which leads you to your greatness, from good to great. So at this point, I'd like to ask Penny to share her passions and her core competencies. Penny?
Okay, thank you, Elaine. And good evening, good morning, good day, everyone. And thank you for joining our free webinar today. This is something, the topic is something that I am very passionate about as well, because my life has been my career journey has been full of surprises. And when I take a look at my life, my what am I passionate about? My passion is on visioning, looking at where we want to be, not just as in our career, but in our life as well. I'm passionate about educating. So I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer. I teach at De La Salle College of St. Benil for the past 18 years. I love what I do. And when you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. And my passion is on achieving. Achieving means being able to see people to get to where they want to be, because I've achieved so many things in life as well. My core competencies: creating clarity through vision boards, and I'll explain that later. Inspiring action, which is through teaching and speaking. And my students call me GOAT. I did not even know what GOAT is, but now I know. And mapping the path through goal setting. So if you know where you want to be, how do you get there? How do we build that map, whether it's in your career or in your personal life? So that's me, Aline.
Thank
About
you,
you.
Penny.
What
Yes.
about you?
So I'm going to share as well my passions and core competencies. And I urge the participants right now to also try to identify at least one passion and one core competency. And feel free to write that one passion and one core competency on the chat box. So for me, I've put passions on the left side. I've put understanding human thinking, emotions, behavior, relationship, essentially people. understanding people, and the totality of the person. Second, of my passions, synthesizing, designing, creating, whatever it is that I'm designing or creating, and for now, I'm designing, creating solutions. And then third, developing and empowering others, developing and empowering people. And then in terms of core competencies, I've written here on the right side, being strategic. And when I say strategic, the ability to connect the dots, and integrate those into the solution that I'm creating. Second is being collaborative. Uh, and in collaborating is really about working with people and coming up again with a solution, for whatever we're working together in, or whatever we're collaborating with or collaborating on. And then third is leading with values and emotional intelligence. And that includes being self-aware and being socially aware, so my own emotional intelligence as well as the impact that I have on others as well. So I see the intersections there between my passions and core competencies. And I see that, with this intersection, I'm able to fulfill some or all of the needs in the business or in the work that I do now in consulting, in strategic planning, training services, leadership development, and coaching. So it's very much related, these two passions and core competencies, with what I'm doing right now. And so we'd love to also hear and see what passion, at least one passion and one core competency that you have written. Anyone? So from Ping, competency being process oriented. Thank you. Thank you, Ping. And hopefully, you have also identified one passion, Ping. From Marge. Hi, Marge. Passion, educating. Oh, just like you, Penny.
Yes.
Training and creating things. I know, Marge, she's right now a teacher in Cambodia. We also know that this is not an overnight process. This is something that that can take time. And it's something that will need introspection and reflection, and could take, not just one night, could take weeks, months, even years, Penny, right? So,
Yeah, years. Mine
yes,
was years, I tell you.
yes.
Uh,
But,
there, pr-
yeah,
I'm so fulfilled. I fulfilled and really giving back now.
it is
And
a
in
very fulfilling process. Yes. And so, the other one that I see here, passion from Jewel, guide and empathize people. Um, Competence is emotional intelligence too. I listen more than speaking. Wow. That is really, what empathy, what communication skill is also all about. It's not just in speaking, but in fact, it's about listening. From Telma, our own Telma. Thank you, Telma. Passion, nurture, competency, innate interest in people. So thank you. And from here, we will move into the part two. This is part one in terms of determining your direction of greatness, from good to great. As a first step, we urge you to continue reflecting on your passions and your core competencies, and continue to look for that sweet spot, that intersection, that alignment between your passion and core competency, and also what how it aligns with what you're doing in your company, or if it's your own business, how it's aligned with your own business, or whatever you're doing right now, how these three intersect. So that's a first step. So now we're going into the second step, or part two of this webinar, which is the sharing of our career journeys. Because now is the storytelling, So from determining or discerning about our passions and core competencies, how do they now progress? How do they evolve? And so at this point, we will share real stories. And Penny, can I start with you in sharing
Yes.
your story? So what I'll do now is keep quiet.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Uh, Talking about career journey, I have a very, very colorful career journey, lots of ups and downs. And we talked about passion. When did I discover my passion? Very late in life. Very late in life. But when I found my passion, that is when I really gave it my all. I finished engineering at De La Salle University, and I finished two engineering degrees. I practiced one, which was industrial engineering, and I practiced it at San Miguel. At that time, whatever you finish, you try to practice it and do the job that is aligned to your education. And then I moved to a company where I met Elaine and June and Thelma, which is called Kodak. Again, I did practice engineering, and then I was fortunate in my 15 years at Kodak. I was fortunate to be moved to IT and customer service, and then they made me HR manager without any HR experience. I loved it because I was learning a lot. But during that journey, I was also doing other things, uh, attending personal self development programs and trying to learn more about myself. But I asked myself, what next? So please click a link. What's next? So I moved to another company called Headstrong, and where I became HR manager to regional HR director for Asia Pacific. I will date myself. I was there before Y2K. So that means we were hiring a lot of IT people. And then after Y2K, we were downsizing a lot of people. And in my journey in HR, I joined an organization called PMAP. Please click a link. So I was a board of director or board of trustee of PMAP for many years because I was very active. But again, I asked the question, what next? My career journey is full of connecting the dots, and I will tell you what the importance of PMAP is in my journey. Next slide, please, Elaine. I made a one leap of faith in 2003 when I was downsizing a lot of people at Headstrong. And my boss was telling me I was so good at downsizing, I don't even bat an eyelash when I talk to people, which is good, which means I don't feel anything when I talk to people. And that's my ID. I was the first employee of Convergys in the country. I remember having posted this in LinkedIn, and I was surprised by all the comments of people. That was me many years ago. Um, so that was my leap of faith. I did not know anything about the BPO, and I moved to other BPOs, and I asked myself again, what's next? Again and again. I mentioned to you that I took a lot of courses, self-development courses. I took Stephen Covey, I took Jack Canfield, meaning when they came over, just and I paid for my own program. Now it's time to give back. I realized that it's time to give back. So I joined IBPAP to be able to hire not just for one company but for the country. We had a goal of 1.8 million in the BPO industry at that time. And because of PMAP, I moderated a session in 2008 where Benilde was a speaker. I decided to teach at Benilde. You see, you can only connect the dots looking backward. Talaga. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. Okay, so in my journey and in my career, I did say to you that I did a lot of self-development programs until I found what I was very passionate about, the success principles of Jack Canfield. He came here twice and I attended twice, and the tickets were not cheap, but I learned that this is my passion. And how early was that in my career? Very, very late. Very, very late, I tell you. And I found that my purpose really in life is to help inspire, motivate, and transform 100,000 Filipinos to dream bigger and achieve their dreams. I was the first Filipinos to be certified in the success principles and the Canfield methodology. I got an endorsement from Jack, and I realized that I can't do that by just training. So I am into coaching as well. I never stop um, improving myself or looking for what's next. So now I'm taking another certification program. It's called Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff. And I want people to be happy for no reason. So that's part of my 100,000 and part of my career journey. Over to you, Elaine.
Thank you, Penny. Wow. How inspiring. And that's a span of how many years, Penny?
Uh, Never mind. You will
So, oh,
age me.
sorry, I asked that question, but it's decades, right?
Decades. But when did I
Yes.
find my purpose and passion? We'll talk about that later.
Okay, so we have the mentoring session after this. Let me share my story as well. And I've tried to capture it in one page with some keywords that, and I will tell the story. I want to share my career journey by sharing several turning points in my work life and family life and personal life, and my learnings and what helped me along the way. So 1997 and 2000, these were well, 1997 was my first international assignment at the age of 27. I started working at the age of 18 in an IT company. But at the age of 27, in 1997, I was relocated by my company to Malaysia. And then in 2000 to Singapore. And these were by my multinational company employers. In 1997, my then boss, Bong Bernardo, took a risk and assigned me to multi-country management position. As I mentioned, I was young, I was a new manager, and I was the first expat woman assigned from Kodak Philippines to Kodak Malaysia at the time. I was also the first Asian woman in Kodak Malaysia, a country which was considered patriarchal at that time. And it was really challenging. My boss took a lot of risk assigning me to Malaysia. We also took risk. Me and my husband and our family, we had 1-year-old child at that time. So it was really a life-changing risk and decision. And in 2000, we relocated to Singapore. There were other stories that happened, but to cut the story short, we relocated into Singapore into a new business unit I was assigned in Kodak to manage the Southeast Asia cluster. These were big, bold, life-changing career, family, and cultural moves. But had we not taken those opportunities that opened up, had we not taken the risk, then I'm not here, right now where I am today. As a famous quote says, growth happens outside our comfort zone. And what helped me a lot was the support of my boss, that vote of confidence, plus the big, big support of my husband. Faith and prayers also were very big factors. Openness and lifelong learning attitude, just like what Penny was also sharing. Now, the other turning point was in my first job in 1988 and another one in 2008. I experienced redundancy. I was sharing with my son recently that I was made redundant in my first job and I was made redundant in my last corporate job. So it was a IT company in 1988, and then it was in Kodak, which was sold globally. The division I was in was sold in 2008, and I was part of that. And I had to lead myself and lead in the first one, I was a new hire, new person in the workforce. So I was an individual contributor. I was leading myself through that crisis. And in the last one, I was an implementer of change. I was leading my team, Southeast Asia, through that crisis. And so all these things that happen, these are beyond my control. These were not within my control. The mergers and acquisitions, divestiture, all this that have happened, where headquarters controlled, no, not in our country, not in our team. But what's important was how I responded and we, the team, responded to these changes and challenges. And so my quote here and my learning is that negativity is contagious, so is positivity. So what helped me was really focusing on what I could control and letting go of the uncontrollable. And again, having faith and trust, continuously moving forward and improving. Again, adopting that lifelong learner attitude. And the last one in 2008, one of my biggest navigations as well and movements in life, from IT systems I moved into manufacturing, distribution in the Kodak imaging system in various applications, and regional general management for Southeast Asia. And in 2008, I shifted to a new path. At the age of 38, I embarked into entrepreneurship by putting up Power in You, coaching, training, and mentoring and consulting in 2008 in Singapore, where I'm based at. So I'm based here in Singapore. I gave up a high-paying job, a very stressful one, actually, and became an outsourced trainer, consultant, and partner for then a global training company. And from then on, several training companies I partnered with. It was my own version of what we now call gig economy. So I started like a freelance consultant for some of the global training companies and then eventually became a bigger partner for them, because the demand increased. And these were completely new scary paths that I took. But I learned that my passion for the new roles and opportunities were not enough, and so I experienced a lot of lows, and also highs. I experienced the roller coaster ride, as they say, of an entrepreneur and a freelancer. And so, aside from purpose, I had to continuously learn things and be certified. I had to start from scratch again, to study again, get certified, get my hands dirty because, I would work like a one-man team or a two-man team. I was very courageous, very resilient. So it helped a lot that I had this attitude. As the saying goes, there is no fruit that is bitter until it is ripe. And so what helped me was that I was able to discern my passion, my vision, my mission. There was a book that a good friend, Omi Romero, gave to me. It's called The Path, and it really helped me at that time to discern my mission and vision. Plus, again, I talked with my husband. He supported me, my big cheerleader, and the other thing, and of course, trusting again and surrendering to God, faith was really a big factor. And the other big thing that I want to highlight is letting go of my corporate identity and all the perks and benefits that went with that, with the corporate identity. And so, in summary, I would say what helped me was the support of my loved ones, purpose and faith, lifelong learning attitude, and letting go, and adopting a stewardship mindset. Okay, so that's my story. I tried to capture it all in one slide, with the journeys that I've had, with the journey that I had in the different times, different phases of life. And so from here, mindful of the time, I would like to give as much time as possible for mentoring, for asking the panelists for open questions and answers about career, about changes, challenges, and anything that you want to ask from Penny and myself. So we now have this what we call Ask the Panelists Your Career Questions, which is part three of tonight's webinar. Yeah, so I've stopped sharing and let me just um, ask you now. What questions do you have? So, first question, Penny, perhaps you can help answer this. If I have several interests and skill sets, how do I know which one to pursue professionally since I am in a career transition?
Okay. So, uh, again, we go back to passion and competencies. If you have many uh, career interests and skill sets, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about that can sustain you financially, or even on the side, so that you know when you're doing what you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. Like when Elaine and I and our co-directors who are here do our coaching and our training, it doesn't feel like work
Yeah.
because we're passionate about it. Elaine?
There's no, for me, there's no one perfect formula. It's really by trial and error, unfortunately. It's by doing it, experiencing it, going through it. And that's why be ready. Be ready to experience failures, be ready to experience, anything. And so for me, if you can identify two or three things you really want to pursue, again, doing that exercise, of course, of really discerning your passion, your core competencies, processing it, and doing your research about what the market needs, what the organizations need. Learn it, give it time, and then assess how you progress from there. I will share one more thing that I didn't share earlier. But Penny, I've shared this with you. We went into cake and coffee business here
Mm.
in Singapore, and my husband and I closed it after less than 2 years, and we were in one of the high traffic shops, malls here in Singapore, in Orchard, in Takashimaya, in the food hall. So what more can you ask, right? It's an excellent position for food retail, but we closed it. um we and we're of course we lost money, but we cut the losses early. And did I regret it? Part of me says yes, but part of me says no, because the experience certainly brought a lot of rewards, not financially, but in terms of the personal stretch, the growth, the maturity, and the family business dynamics, the different aspects that we discovered about ourselves. So costs sometimes are not just in financial or material sense. It's also, other aspects of life. And think of it also in terms of what am I willing to give up? In our case, we discovered we're not willing to give up our community service and our family time and bonding, which in food retail business, you will have to give up because the peak hours are during weekends and holidays.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
yes.
yeah. So, it's really pursuing it and doing it, experiencing it. And yeah, and unfortunately, it's by trial and error. And hopefully, you make an assessment early enough and a decision early enough whether you really go for it, master it, or not. Okay, so that's what I'd
Mm-hmm.
say. The other question, okay, let me just ask the second question in the sent-in registration questions, and then I see one question on the chat, then we can shift there. What are the advantages of designing a career that fits in your life? Penny?
Ikaw muna, Elaine.
Okay. Ikaw talaga. Okay, so for me, I will look at it in terms of the qualitative aspect and the quantitative aspect. So qualitative aspect, it's so hard to measure that, right? The advantages. You have contentment, you have happiness, you discover your potentials, you master things, when you develop your competencies. And later on, of course, when you do it, when you're very good at it, then you contribute to society, you leave a legacy. So those are qualitative aspects. Now, quantitatively, hopefully, when you reach that point where you develop something that you're really passionate about and happy about, then the financial and material benefits follow. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, don't don't blame me if later on you don't get the benefit financially or materially. Of course, there are, like what I said, there are factors beyond our control, like what's happening in the economy and the uncertainties in the world today. But those are the things that I could cite as benefits on the qualitative and on the quantitative side. Penny?
Yes, I agree with you, Aline. On the quantitative side, um, when you design your career and you know that you cannot, like, for example, leave a corporate job because you have a family, but you know that you want to do something, you can start doing it on the side, be part of the gig economy and start doing it on the side until you find it to be financially rewarding already. And I always hear this and I always say this: when you follow your passion, money will follow eventually,
Mm.
not immediately, eventually.
Eventually. So you have to have that longer term outlook, right? So
That's why it's
that's why resilience is very important. And in relation to that, there was one question. I'll just go straight to the registration question, and then I'll read the question here of from the chat. How would you develop career resilience during uncertain times? Any thoughts on that, Penny?
uh, being being prepared and looking forward to learning a lot, looking at what is, for me, what is happening, um, and and apply what you've learned in your life, because you really have to be we all have to be uh, adaptable. We have to be continuously learning. Even if you have to invest in yourself, pay for it yourself. It's
Yeah.
okay, because it's an investment for yourself and it's not an expense. So many
Yeah.
of us, like Elaine, I'm sure you have been certified in a lot of other things that you realize, this is not for me. So I've done that. I've had certifications that I paid for. Na, this is not for me. So, uh, just taking those actions that will help you in your career. I
Yeah.
think that will help.
So it's investing, right?
Investing in yourself, yes.
Instead of looking at it as a cost, really
Yes.
investing in your career.
Mm-mm.
Um, and to that point, Penny, it will also have a help to after investing to do other things like to network and
Mm-hmm.
to study how you can also commercialize it or monetize it, but without losing touch of the passion and the why the purpose, the why,
Yes.
of why you've done it in the first place, why you've shifted or why you've pursued something in the first place, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I hear questions or sometimes sharing about, I've taken this, I've done this, but how come, nothing is happening, or it's not happening as I expected, right? So yeah, so that's why resilience, it's very hard in today's times. It's really, there's no easy way to say it, especially in our what we call now our VUCA or BANI times. It's
Mm-hmm.
really uncertain, constantly changing, complex. But an open mind, being coachable, adopting lifelong learning, taking the action, these are things that we say they sound simple, but they're not actually. So it took, like what Penny and I shared, it took us years. And it took a lot of what we call in Tagalog, pawis, at ano pa yon? Pawis, dugo, at hirap, at
Hirap, dugo at pawis.
yeah.
Hirap, dugo
So
at pawis.
so it's
Mm-mm.
really a lot of this, sweat equity, not cash equity, but sweat equity that we have to give in, to give up as well. And so moving
Okay.
forward, the other thing that I would say about resilience is also really having strength spiritually. emotionally, mentally, spiritual resilience, all of this, and physical resilience, all of this. So it's a holistic well-being and resilience that we need to have. Okay,
Okay.
so
I'll help you, Elaine. There's a question in the chat. I'll read it for you.
yes.
Okay. The question is from March. So Elaine and I are moderating and paneling at the same time. Is it safe to say that one should not quit their job yet if the passion they want to pursue is not yet financially sustaining?
Do you want to answer it, Penny?
You go ahead.
Okay. So for me, um, the consideration, of course, is your financial position and your obligations as well. And so if you'd have to consider those and do your math, and do your planning. And what's good about today's world is that many, or some of you, or many here, have passive income, or have two or three things that give income, and so that's a plus factor. But on the other hand, for those who's fully dependent on the income of their current employment or job, pursuing another passion, be it a business, be it another career, another job that is not yet there, another company, is something, of course, that practically speaking, you have to consider in terms of the
Mhm.
financial implication of shifting right away. So timing is very important. Planning
Mhm.
for it is very important. I can share that, and this also answers one of the registration questions. I can share with you that, I had, before I left the corporate world, I had many one-to-ones with my husband, because I was telling him, I'm not motivated to work anymore. I want to quit. I had a very stressful job. It was affecting my health. Plus, I had a desire to spend more time with my son who was growing up in the middle school. So, and he was very patient. He was very empathetic. He was listening to me. And then he asked me one question that stuck with me. He said, "Is that what you really want? Because if that's what you really want, I'll support you." Um, Also, have you considered your 15 years, that time 15 years with the company? Because yeah, 15 years by the time I left, 16 years with the company. Um, which made me rethink, yeah, I didn't consider that because I was just focused on 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 leaving. I was so focused on myself. And so talking it out, processing it with a loved one whom I trusted and who was very supportive and empathetic, and who was very coach like to me. He let me zoom in and zoom out. Zoom out, see the bigger picture, but also zoom in and become more introspective, and ask these questions, reflection questions. Is this really what I want? And think more about it, and then visualize it, envision the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, down the line. And then also look at the bigger picture. And of course, pray for God's wisdom, graces, and blessings. Yeah. So, I gave it time. By the way, what happened was I gave it time. I didn't rush it. I was very blessed to have someone to talk with, to process it with. And then I gave it time, and the perfect timing happened because, as I mentioned earlier in my sharing, our company was divested. And after less than 1 year, there was a redundancy. And so God's blessing, I got a package for 16 years in the company. So had I not waited, then I would have just yeah, forfeited that benefit as well. Yeah.
Elaine, you in your case, you just had one son, one child. I had four children who were going to school, and my husband retired. So I had practically not no choice, but I was wise with savings. So Even in my first job, I was already saving, and then saving, and then saving. And I had to send all my children to school. They went to good schools. And I was fortunate enough to be paid very well in the contact center. I'm very, very thankful for the contact center because that is where I built a name for myself. Uh, and and that is where I was able to take a look at what else do I want to do. Uh, my I get in it very, very fast. What else? What else? What else can I do? So I was able to find Jack once again. And that I learned was my one of the things that I wanted to do. Let me just go back to the question to my experience when I was um retiring from my corporate job. My boss said, Penny, you don't have to retire now. We still have a lot of years ahead. Why don't you stay for those years? I said, Ray, that's his name. If I don't do it now, when will I follow my passion? When will I follow my dreams? That is because I was financially stable na. But if
Mhm.
I wasn't financially stable, perhaps I wouldn't. Yet,
So to
I
the
did
question,
do things on
financial
the.
is very important. As
Mm-mm.
of course, we're not simplifying it and saying it's not. It is important. It's part of the equation. It's part of the considerations and
Yes.
planning and timing. Yes, very important. Penny, just mindful of the time, we have
Mm-mm.
a couple of minutes left
Oh,
for this
yeah.
because we do have some closing announcements. There's one question here from Telma. How did you react when the career situation became scary? So for me, it was facing it. Like what I think there's a book called, Face the Fear, right? Know the fear, face the fear. So it's facing it, facing that challenge, and of course equipping myself with the resources needed, again, in terms of the values, in terms of growing as a person, in terms of upskilling myself and really learning from everything that was happening, and getting the resources as well that I could get in terms of mentors. I can work with bosses who support me, families, who could support, so really, as they say, you need a whole village to raise a family, right? So it's just like that, to really that time raise our family, in a new environment, new culture, new place. It was really getting all the resources that I could get, and yeah, maximizing those. So facing the fear. And then there's this comment from Benji. Thank you so much, Benji. Passion is about what you love doing. It is not the same as a job. There can be different ways that a passion can be expressed in various roles. Yeah. So, okay. And again, there are some more comments here. What any last message, Penny, before we close for this webinar session?
Uh, there are ups and downs to one's career or to one's career journey. And many of us will face that ups and downs, especially now in the age of AI. We're very unsure what will happen. My last parting words would be ready to upskill yourself, reskill, relearn, unlearn, and having to spend for yourself on new things, on learning is not an expense. It's an investment.
Thank you, Penny. I couldn't have said it better. I think we'll leave it at that. I've shared my life journey. I've shared passions and competencies, and of course, the answers to the question. Thank you so much. We hope that you have learned something, you have gained insights, and that it has helped you reflect and take actions for a career that will fit your life. So we hope to see you in the upcoming webinars and learning events. Thank you very much. Have a good night.